You ready for this, man?
Dude, the only one that's tripping me is that first question.
What do you mean?
What do I speak about?
Let's go right into it. Nothing scary here.
Oh, I'm ready.
It's just another episode of the podcast.
Here we go. Are we live already?
We're live, dude. We're going. We're going. That's it.
What's up?
But yeah, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I got my buddy Karsten here. I mentioned there's been 2 episodes I've been talking about this. Trying to get you on.
Oh, yeah?
And I was like, hey, I'm going to have him on. And then we had some issues last time and then just kept going. But finally got you on board. Hit a workout this morning. How you feeling?
That was good, man. Well, first things first, thanks for being persistent. Getting me on here, showing your great BD skills.
There we go.
Right off the bat with the pod. But workout went good. I wasn't anything crazy. I enjoyed the lunges outside a little bit. Nice and cold. I wish it would have been snowing or something.
Yeah. So Karsten looks at me today and he's like, hey, we live in Utah. It's still kind of cold outside. It's like 20 degrees. I don't know. It's cold. He looks at me. He's all smiling. He goes, hey, I'm going to go do lunges outside for like 5-10 minutes. I'll be right back. I was like, there's no way. Like, we joke around all the time at work. Like, kind of make scenarios that are kind of wild sometimes. But, like, he went out there and he got after it. So, hey, he's doing it.
Hey,
I'm not kidding.
I swear by the lunges. Like, seriously. I've done consistently lately. But in the past, like, I would do upwards of 20 to 30 minutes a day. And it's just like nonstop, go from one lunge into the other, no steps in between. And it's the best cardio. I love it. Shout out to Corey G. He's the best. Corey G Fitness. Give him a follow. He's a homie.
Did I ever tell you about my buddy Drake?
Drake?
Yeah. He's kind of wild. But when we were like right out of high school, kind of graduating, waiting to go to like college and stuff, he kind of got into like a David Goggins phase a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And he he like showed up at my house one time. It was like 4 a.m. You can message him. This is a real story. He's like, okay, let's go. We're gonna go to the football field and just do lunges. I was like, why? Like what are you talking about? This is before like I got after it. And like I was pretty lazy. I was a lazy guy. But he went there and he would do like 10,000 lunges and then like go.
Would you just count them, or
just count them like on a football field? I was like, you're a wild man. But he'd show up, and I was like, it's 4 a.m. What are you doing at my house? Like, go away. Anyway.
Oh, my goodness. I love it. That's actually, speaking of that, this same fitness guru, Corey G, the man himself, he actually wakes up at 4 every morning.
Dang.
So I wonder if your boy Drake has been following Corey as well, because that's his thing. He gets up early, gets after it, then he has more time to focus on getting things done with work, and then spending time with his family in the afternoons.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we're doing. And I appreciate you jumping on and being here. Like, again, like Karsten, you guys don't know this, but he drove, what is it, like 45 minutes to get here?
Hey, I mean, that's just
it's pretty early. and then, like, hey, worked out at 5:30, and now we're recording a podcast. So let's take a step back here. Can you tell us a little bit about your background? Like, where you got started, kind of how you got to where you're at today. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, like where you grew up, just like who were you as a kid?
Yeah. No, I mean, local, here to Utah, grew up just, I don't know, kind of just for love for sports. Mostly when I was younger, it was just like basketball. But over time, I got fat and I just couldn't play ball. Like I could barely get up and down the court fast enough to where like it would make sense for me to be on like the junior high team or the high school team. And so I believe it was like the night before, because I guess this has shaped a lot of who I am. It was the night before like summer conditioning going into like I think my sophomore year of high school, and I'd never played football just because it was like we either go on this vacation. My dad's family's from Florida, so we'd go almost every summer to go and visit them. And it was like, okay, you either go to Florida and to Bear Lake, or you play football. And I was like, well, of course I'm going to go on these vacations. But that summer, I decided, I was like, you know what? Night before, I was like, I'll go. Showed up, like walked out with all my pads on like the wrong way, and the coach is like, "What the heck?" And just kind of like committed to that, and that was like a big change in my life because in addition to the conditioning and the workouts and everything that I was doing with the team, I went in every morning. I think I met it was the wrestling coach that also helped with football. Always wanted me to wrestle, but I never did. So probably still has a grudge there. Anyways, I would lift with him every morning at 6 a.m. And I started doing that that first summer and did it until I graduated high school. And that just set like a good foundation for me in terms of fitness. And I think that's something we'll get into a lot today. So little background there. And then I guess just to add a little bit more detail into who I am, after I did finish high school, I went out to Mexico, loved my time there, fell in love with like building relationships and meeting people and helping others, and just with the culture as well. It was something that I became super passionate about. And, kind of getting back into that, I was quick to get into life, started going right into school up at Weber until I met my wife, who kind of moved me down to southern Utah, spent a few years down there with her. A little 6-month stint in Tampa, Florida. Loved that. We really enjoyed living there. And while we were living there, actually, we decided that we wanted to have a baby. So right now we've got little Hayes man, little Z man.
Hayes, dude.
He's almost 14 months here, and he's just a blast. So kind of a little bit of a tangent. We can speak more into the specifics, but love my wife Maddie, love my boy Hayes. Love kind of working on myself professionally and building relationships. And fitness is something that I enjoy, and I definitely have some big goals this year. So
that's what I'm talking about. And yeah, like the last podcast I made was all about like goal setting and trying to, always push yourself and try and progress and all those things. And yeah, you definitely do that. Like, hey, one of your goals was to be on 3 podcasts this year, right?
That's true. This is the first.
If anyone's got any that are
reach out,
reach out to Karsten. We're gonna get them.
Got to get 2 more.
But yeah, and like one thing that's been awesome, like learning about you, is your like dedication to learning about like different ways that you can progress in life and work on yourself professionally. And one of those ways that we've talked a little bit about is like real estate investing. And I know nothing about that world. But you've told me a little bit about it. Can you tell a little bit about what your experience investing in real estate has been like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no guru, no Grant Cardone, but it really just came down to me seeing the upside of it, and then also just not wanting to spend a ton of money like on rent when I first got married.
Was it kind of scary, like first deciding to go into that? Because I know like a lot of people, at least like for me, it's like, oh man, that's a big investment first, like or up front. Kind of worried, like, what if it doesn't go well?
Yeah, I mean, there definitely was like, I think making that decision that like you're gonna buy, like if you're just on your own, would be super intimidating.
Yeah.
But that's what is like super nice about just talking to people. Like before doing anything, I talked to a lot of close family friends and mentors of mine about, that were kind of heavily involved in real estate. And then I actually just called a few realtors in St. George and just talked through it with them, let them know my situation, let them know what we were wanting to look at. We were looking for something super cheap. Like our budget was like 150 grand. And so we talked to a realtor. He actually cold called me after I'd been looking on his site, and he ended up earning my business. So shout out to the cold callers out there. Spoke to a realtor yesterday on the phone while I was making cold calls. He called me, and I shared the story with him real quick and said, keep it going because it'll pay off. But anyways, I just like one thing I'd say is just go ahead and see if you can make it happen. Talk to some lenders, talk to some realtors, go out and look at some properties and just see if it makes sense, because it might not.
Yeah.
It's not something that you gotta dive right into, but depending on where the market's at, it does make a lot of sense oftentimes. Like, I guess speaking back to this first experience, we went down, looked at like, I don't know, a few properties, and we ended up finding one. I think it was about 160, and we have a ton of money saved up, and we were able to ask the seller to give us money at closing to help cover some of those costs. So that's called concessions. And yeah, I mean, that was super helpful. We were able to get some money, and we actually just sold that property, and we even gave the buyer some money as well to help them with closing. But we were able to, just selling that, make a good amount of money. So it was nice.
Yeah, I mean, real estate's like, everyone says like, hey, you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket, and real estate's like a really good investment. From like people I've talked to, I don't have anything in real estate yet, but I'm looking towards doing that. But I also want to like highlight that it's not always super cheery, right? Like, you've had some challenges with real estate, right? With tenants or renters.
No,
or whatever.
Of course. So with that first property, we lived there for a while. We kind of did like a soft remodel, just paint, carpet, refinish the cabinets, that sort of thing. Little, how do you say that? Like refresh, maybe.
Yeah.
So we did
DIY.
that. Lived there. Ended up. This is, I guess, something that's nice. We took a HELOC on it so we could use that on the down payment on a new townhome in this fun community. So we did that. We moved to the community, and we rented it out. And at first, like, everything was going pretty good. Our tenants over time kind of were just really slow at paying rent. And, we had a pretty good relationship. So we were able to kind of I was, able to work with them a few times. They got some assistance on, I guess the majority of their payments, and eventually when they moved out, and I had accepted a job up here in northern Utah, and decided that we were going to sell both of our properties, relocate up here. And it was kind of a quick decision. And so by the time they moved out, we needed to get both of the properties ready to go and listed. And I showed up, and it was just completely trashed. Like, there was a huge hole in the wall that supposedly had happened while they were moving out on accident. I don't know. There were cabinets that were missing. Literally all the ceiling fans were broken. Like, I don't even know like how that happens. Like, the remotes were lost.
They're having sword fights in there. Just like,
I don't know. Like,
one of baseball.
Seriously, one of the ceiling fans, I guess I just had to go replace the remote, but that was $50 to do that. And I think what else was like. I mean, it was filthy. They'd smoked in my house.
Gross.
I mean, obviously that was against the rules, and I'd done a check-in, and everything looked super nice. It was just totally caught off guard there, because like we had talked a lot throughout the terms of the lease, but anyways, there was the filth, just garbage everywhere, and like I said, I had a weekend, so I had to I hired a professional cleaner, and they still like didn't do the best job, so we had to clean on top of that. We had carpet cleaners come. Honestly, like one of the first things the buyer said was that they were going to replace the carpet. So, even though our brand new carpet that we spent, a decent amount of money on, even though we cleaned it and got it as good as we could, just with the smoke and everything, like, it still needed to be replaced. So it was a process. We were in there literally, I think, for like 3 straight days, just repainting a lot of the cabinets and different walls. We had to literally and I know nothing about construction, so this is just like kind of learning over time. Little things like my grandma, her sister lives in St. George, and her husband had flipped houses before. So they heard that we were in kind of a tough spot and didn't know what to do, and they showed right up. Like, he took me to this, I can't remember what the name of this store was, but we were able to just like buy like an old ceiling fan for like, I think it was $30, but I asked him if we could do 20.
There you go.
So save $10 there to get things fixed up. But yeah, like he helped me put that up so we could, fix that ceiling fan, and they helped me replace pretty much like the entire wall and do all that. So anyways, that's kind of just a little brief story there, but stuff like that happens. Luckily, the security deposit, did cover the damages.
Oh, nice.
And so, yeah, like spent a lot of money that weekend and a lot of time, but I mean, it was worth it. Having that rental, allowed us to live in a really nice home while we were in St. George, and with a brand new baby. Like, we loved that. We enjoyed it. And, we were able to have 2 properties. And as we sell that second one, if anyone's looking, we still have one in St. George. It's in a fun community, desert color, 2.5-acre lagoon, pool.
I'm sold.
Amenities are amazing. Check it out on Zillow. The address.
There we go. Yeah, dude, that's
address
awesome.
in the comments.
Yeah, we'll put it in the notes.
But yeah, I mean, just to that, like, don't be afraid to try it out. Like, I still am open to having rentals in the future. And, whether I self-manage those or use a property manager, it's just going to depend on each property and, what my day-to-day life looks like. And so, yeah, it's definitely something that was an awesome experience.
Yeah, there's 2 things that you said that, like, I think are really important to cover. And the first one is, like, you found mentors and you went and you seeked out, like, education in that space. Like, you didn't know anything about it. So you called realtors and you're like, hey, tell me a little bit about this stuff. And then you got hit up by realtors and all that stuff. And I think that's just important with whatever you're trying to get after in life. Like, it is, as cheesy as that sounds, but like, if it's a new skill you want to try, if it's, if you want to get better at your profession, go seek out people that are doing it and ask them how they got started and do that. And then the other thing that you mentioned was just like, don't be afraid to try something new, because like a lot of times it can be intimidating to get into the real estate market, or like if you want to try and learn a new skill, like playing the piano or something, and you're like, man, there's just a lot of time it's going to have to go into it. I don't want to think about it. But sometimes you got to be willing to be like, okay, I'm just going to give it a shot and see what happens. And like, hey, you turned out to learn something new, and it's a skill that you'll take throughout your life. So the other thing you kind of briefly talked about was like the fact that you're a salesperson or salesman, you could say.
A consultant.
A consultant. There you go.
What should we call it? That sounds less salesy.
Yeah. I don't know. I've heard like on LinkedIn people say like, oh no, I just enlighten people like on our products. You could say you're an enlightener. There you go. But like with sales, because a lot of it can also tie into real estate and whatever, but like, what are some very important skills that you've learned that you apply to your life, either through like how you communicate with other people, or what's the balance between building long-term relationships but still like working to persuade someone to kind of do what you want them to almost? Does that make sense?
No, yeah, totally. I'd say it really just comes down to like not being afraid to start conversations or ask questions.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask the wrong questions. And eventually over time, you're going to kind of know what you need to ask so that, you're both on the same page. So I'd say that's something that's important. Like if, I want to talk to a realtor, I want to make sure that I set the right expectations,
right,
for what I want out of this. Or if I'm, talking to someone about a potential, partnership here at work, I want to make sure it's very clear, like what, my end game is and where like I see the potential, and just try and articulate that so they can see it as well. Or if we simply just don't align, that we don't waste a lot of time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, yeah, I don't know. You could waste a ton of time just talking to random people, especially like at trade shows, as you know.
Yeah.
You just get like talking to people. There's no business alignment whatsoever. It's good to have that connection, but you're not going to accomplish what you're set out there to do.
Right.
And either are they. They've got things going on as well.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to one thing that we actually have a friend. His name starts with a B, and he's the ex-Amazon VP. But he always says, like, when you want to talk to people and you want to start asking them questions and get to some of their pain points, you need to figure out like where you want the conversation to end up.
Yeah.
And so, like, in your mind, before you go and talk to them, you need to like kind of almost plan and prepare to answer any questions that they might have, but then also ask them specific questions to identify pain points.
I'd say that's the best way to stand out.
Yeah.
Like if you can go to someone and say, like, hey, I noticed you're losing money here because, of this issue you're facing, you're losing X amount. Or, you can gain Y amount of revenue if you were just to make this adjustment.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I looked through, like, how do you say it's like I looked through the terms and conditions on your site and noticed you aren't doing this. That's something I did a lot at my last company. We would help with international sales, and a lot of times it would say right there like, oh, we don't sell, or we sell but there are fees that are unknown, and we would help with that. And so like just taking a second to look at their current business or kind of their current state and just saying, okay, how can, like, is there alignment? If there is, how can I help out? What is relevant for this person?
Yeah.
And it definitely stands out for sure.
And another thing that like I'm learning as like I go through like sales in my career is like it's not fit for everyone sometimes. And so when people tell you no, don't like try and push it, right? It's like, okay, well, hey, maybe my timing was off. I'll check back in a few months or something like that. But never be afraid to like pull back, because that's where I think the difference between building long lasting relationships and then like being known as like a salesman kind of differs, if that makes sense. Like if you're a salesman, you're going to come off as like pushy. But if you want to build relationships, and that's really what sales is, and really what business and networking is. But like, you need to have that long-term vision in mind. It's almost like going into that conversation with like, hey, if they say no and timing's off, then I'm not going to be afraid to, come back and talk to them in a few months, but always check in and be that resource.
Yeah, of course.
My dad tells a story where like he used to do sales for a publishing company, and he'd sell to schools. And we were swimming on a Saturday, and the University of Phoenix calls him and goes, hey, we need these kind of textbooks. And my dad would always have like inventory pretty much in our garage growing up, of just like books, so he could always go and drop them off or whatever. And we're swimming, and it's like a Saturday at like 1 p.m. and they call him, and he goes, hey, no worries, I'll come drop it by, but I'm in my swimsuit. And they're like, that's totally fine, we just need that book. And so he came and like he dropped off the books, and just that simple act, I think, led to like one of his biggest deals.
That's awesome.
I don't know like the deal size, but like it's just the importance of like being there and being someone that like people can rely on and trust. So I think that's a really important part in going into sales too.
No, yeah, and that actually kind of brings a thought for me of my dad's career as well. He's always been in pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And like I've done door-to-door sales, and with that, like you'll go through the entire sales process 8 times on one door, like just talking to them, working through the sale, seeing if honestly, if you can just convince them to get it done.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, come on. Oh, okay. Well, we'll look at this in your yard. Let's go again. Cause I did pest control, but anyways, like it's just trying to get that sale right then, trying to get it serviced the same day or later. Like it's just super pushy.
Yeah.
And my dad has always done pharmaceutical sales. And so to speak to kind of what you were saying about relationships, like he didn't know like when the doctor would need to prescribe his medicine. All I could do is just go spend 5 minutes with a doctor, drop by, some smoothies or lunch
Yeah.
or some candy or whatever. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty much all he would do, professional snoozer, right? But just go in there, talk to him, just, be real with them, have a good conversation for 5 minutes, leave something and leave. And it's just, yeah, is my relationship good enough that they're going to want to, send business my way? We'll see. And, to speak to that a little bit more, he, has his whole career has traveled like 2-3 nights, sometimes a week, just going to different offices throughout his territory, usually multiple states, and just, saying hi, hey, how you doing? How's your family? How are your kids? Hope you're all right. Um, you know, let's when it makes sense, we're here for you. Just give me a call. So, anyways, that's super important.
Yeah, I think so too. And have you seen The Office?
Of course, who hasn't?
There's this. Do you know the episode where like Michael, he's got his like Rolodex with all these notes in it of like things not to say and things to say to like his potential prospects. I think Dwight steals it because like Michael's leaving the company and he's like trying to start his own.
Oh yeah,
something like that. So Dwight shows up and he's like, "Hey, how's your daughter doing?" Or like all this stuff, and he's like, "Your 7-year-old daughter," and all this creepy stuff. And these people are like, "That's overstepping," but like Michael would use it as like building relationships and talking to people. Anyways, kind of just going back to what we just talked about.
I love it. Put that clip in.
Yeah, there you go. Throw that in. I don't have a producer, so I'll put it in later maybe.
We will.
But I want so something else. Like this is shifting the conversation a little bit, but you mentioned you're a dad, and with like work-life balance, that's something I think a lot of people struggle with. I do. Like I know, like sometimes it's really hard for me to go home and like turn it off. But with that said, like how's being a parent changed your perspective on life and work?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to have a why in my work, and so like when I first got married and I started with one of my first sales jobs, like my why was, simple to provide for my wife and I, pay our mortgage,
Yeah.
And then as we moved to Tampa, a big reason we did that was we knew we, wanted to have a baby. And so we were willing to kind of just take that risk, get some money saved up. The nice thing about that was we got paid over the course of 12 months after the summer. And so I was able to come back, get a job. We had our baby, and then we had, income from the summer and then my full-time salary as well. And so like that was super important. And really that's been my, like why, each and every month, like to get me to my goal to hit quota is, like I could buy a lot more diapers if I hit my number,
Yeah. That's true.
And just also like to how my perspective has changed as a parent, like it just brings so much happiness and joy. Like it's seriously like just such a blast, and to share that with my spouse, like me and Maddie have just loved it so much. It's super hard. Like that's something I'd say it's 10 times harder than I would have imagined, but 20 times.
Of, like the schedule or like what's?
It's an adjustment for sure. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's, something that, both parents really like, it can catch you off guard. Like there's a lot that goes into it,
Yeah.
Changing diapers, just caring for an actual human being. Like sometimes you're just worried. Like sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just be like tap my wife and be like, "Is Hayes crying?" And she's like, "No, he's not." Like you just like hear it sometimes. Or is like jump up and like just go check on him real quick. I don't know. It's just kind of a lot like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was gonna say is like it's 10 times harder than I would have expected, but 20 times more rewarding. That's awesome. Like 100%. So it's been a blast. And as far as work-life balance goes, I wouldn't say that I like have this dialed down as much as I'd like, because like when I'm at home, for example, like if I've got a meeting or this or that, like, I need to be committed to that.
Yeah.
And it's hard too because like little Hayes will be like knocking on my door. Like when I'm home, he wants to get into my office. He's just like, I gotta, go see him. I gotta sit on his lap or something. And yeah, I think over time, especially right now, we're staying with my parents as we sell our house and then decide what we're going to do up here in northern Utah. And so I think, eventually it'll be nice to have a good office set up and just kind of figure out what that nice balance looks like of, when I can, having lunch with them, for example, on a work from home day is super nice.
Yeah.
And so probably should do better at prioritizing that because sometimes I skip lunch when I'm working from home because I'm just like dialed in trying to get things done. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that everyone has to work on, and it's a process for sure.
Yeah, I honestly I love seeing your relationship with Hayes. Like for you guys who don't know, Karsten will get him like New Balances and like Crocs and all these like really cool shoes. Crocs are cool now, man. By the way,
I need to get some. We'll see.
Yeah, but like I was like posted on Instagram and like send me pics. I'm like, this is like the coolest kid in the world. Like I want to meet this kid. I wish I was him. But yeah, the way that you guys like hang out, I think is super awesome. It's cool. Like you can tell you love the little kid.
Awesome. Oh, dude, thanks. I appreciate that. It's been fun. And I'd say like to other dads out there, like don't just take the back seat. Sometimes it's easier, especially like maybe if your wife doesn't work, or I mean obviously she has a full-time job. If she isn't working, like being with the baby and everything, it's not easy. It's you have to be 100% like committed to that the whole time, like right. Unless they're asleep maybe for a little bit, quick nap or something. But anyways, I just say like it's easy to just take the back seat. Like, oh yeah, like my wife she can wake up during the night or change the diapers or whatever. Like I have to work in the morning, whatever, like that sort of thing. But for me, since I think when Hayes was probably 3 or 4 months old, Maddie started working nights as a nurse, and so she'd be gone. And so like the whole bedtime routine, like feeding him during the night, checking in on him, giving him, like I said, the bedtime routine, so the bath and all that stuff. Like I just had to jump in and learn how to do that myself. And then we also just would have those evenings together, just the two of us, me and Hayes. And I think that really just helped strengthen our relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm super grateful for that time that we've had. My wife's actually going to Taylor Swift this weekend. She leaves tonight with some friends, and this is her first time leaving Hayes. We've left Hayes once together, and then I've left for a few trade shows and stuff, but this will be her first time. So she's definitely a little, a little hesitant, a little scared to leave us, a little sad.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited she's doing that.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And like going back to like the first night, what was it like when it was just you and Hayes? Were you scared? It's like,
oh yeah, totally. Like, I mean, when we're together, like when Maddie and I would be together, like one of us would hold the towel and like after the bath and like put him in it, and like we'd both go over there. One of us would be like putting doing his skin routine while someone else is getting the pajamas or making a bottle or something. But when you're alone, it's like, okay, like I didn't even know how to get him in the towel from the shower, from the bath. So it was definitely a learning experience, and grateful that Hayes endured through it with me.
Hey, dude, I mean, that's life. Like I've talked about it a lot. Like just, you gotta always keep learning. I mean, that's how you get better at anything that you do. Like being a dad's a good example. Like you got to sometimes just jump in and do it. I'm not a dad yet, but I plan on it in the future.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's a scary thought, but it's like I just got to do it.
Oh yeah,
if I want to do it, you got to do it right. But going back to the little Hayes, I know you like to treat him with like some nice kicks, right? Some like New Balances and stuff. This is one thing I love about Karsten. Is like he's a very like he knows the sneakerheads or the expensive shoes and all these things.
I know I don't have the expensive ones.
But there was this one call, or this one day, just like during the work week, and I think it was a work from home day. And Carson's like, dude, do you have a second? He calls me. And he goes, bro, I just got the Nike Pandas. I'm like, what? Like, what does that even mean? He's like, I just won the bid. And where did your love for expensive shoes come from? Like, how'd you get into that world?
I mean,
It doesn't have to be expensive shoes, but like sneakers.
My dad loved shoes. And so, like, it started at Ross. Like,
There you
growing
go.
up, it was like we'd go to Ross and just look for Jordans. And he, like, just being in pharmaceutical sales, he would be going from doctor's office to doctor's office, and he'd stop at every Ross in between. Yeah, he just loves that. I think he still probably does. But I'm almost certain he does that still. But anyways, he would just like find like Jordans and we're probably, like I said, maybe in junior high at this time. And so he'd bring those home and, maybe return like give us one or two pairs, return the rest, kind of just let us choose.
Yeah.
And so that's really where it started. And then he did the same thing in high school with like football cleats. He would just go and like, I don't know why, but I had like 4 pairs of cleats each season because he would just like show up and get them from Ross, and they were like super cheap, But anyways, that's kind of where I started to like find a love for sneakers. And then when Boost got super big, probably back in like 2016, maybe 2015, like the Ultra Boost and like the Yeezys.
You're rocking them this morning at the gym. I saw the Ultra
Oh
Boost.
yeah, I was wearing some Ultra Boost. I think some like B4s, but anyways, like that's when I really got into it, was with that. Like if you've heard of Boost God before, he's a creator on YouTube. He has literally like the most collectible, like all the collabs from like the Boost. I think he might have liquidated a lot of his collection, but anyways, like that's really what got me hooked, was the Ultra Boost.
Yeah.
And then I just went and bought like some NMDs and a bunch that just kind of fit into that. And eventually, like now I like some Jordans, some Nikes, like, but what my like true passion is New Balance right now. Like the 2002R is like the best shoe ever created. So nice. The 990s. I got Hayes a pair of the New Balance 990 V3s. And like, it's just such a quality shoe, and they look so sneaking cute for him. And I'm a little sad right now. We bought Hayes some Panda Dunks, and like 2 weeks later we got an email, and they didn't have as much stock as they thought, and so they were refunding us.
Dude.
And we're like, okay, it's fine. Like, I mean, they drop those, whatever. Like, I mean, I just like them because they're easy to match,
Yeah.
That's why I ended up getting a pair, and I got them for retail, so it made sense. But then, like, I think it was 2 weeks ago, I got on for like the Kith drawings, and there was a Kith New Balance 990 V3 from their spring collection, and like this shoe's going for like over $500 right now. And I got the shoe. I was super stoked, and literally like 2 days ago, I got the same email I got with Hayes' Dunks.
Hey, really?
And yeah, they had less inventory than they thought. Someone had checked out right before me, even though they charged my card 2 weeks ago. They are refunding it, and I don't get them, which I'm super bummed about, because like the sickest colorway, and I was super excited about wearing them. The person that probably got them over me probably has them listed on StockX right now, but it is what it is.
Dude, that guy's listening to this and he's just smiling.
I know, right? Seriously, but yeah.
We'll mourn after this podcast and go through it. But no, it's cool. Like, and that's one thing. And the reason I bring it up is like, you can get after literally anything. Like, it doesn't have to be anything like serious in terms of like physical fitness or professionalism. Like, and after it's like, oh, I'm going to go pursue a hobby. Like, researching shoes. Like you're saying all these different New Balances, like 270s or whatever. Like I
Oh,
don't
it's so
know what
hard
that
with all
means.
the numbers, man.
But like you go out and you learn about this stuff, and I think it's awesome. Like that's your passion, and that's like one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast is to like identify people's passions. And like I talked to you a little bit about this the other day. Like I'm thinking about rebranding the name, be like something with the Pursuit podcast is one that I thought of. Like you pursue whatever you're trying to accomplish in life, and that could be buying shoes, or it could be becoming a real estate investment tycoon or something like that. But like that's the main thing is like you should be proud of whatever you're getting after. And like I love it. Like Karsten will come in and he'll tell me all these things, and like it's cool. Like and I can tell like you're interested and you have a passion and care for it, and it's just fun to see.
I'd say one thing to that, like it also like helps build relationships as well and like connections. Like I've never been to SneakerCon, but like I mean that'd be super cool. Just go there and like see all the shoes, talk to everyone about what they think's going to be the next hot shoe or what they've really been like loving, that sort of thing. But also like some of my buddies, Keyshawn, shout out to Keyshawn, Skylar, and Braxton. We have a little like Kicks group chat, and like we're talking about shoes every day. Like we just love. We're sending links and like trying to get people to buy like more shoes and stuff, and it's a good source of motivation. Like now, especially, I don't buy shoes very frequently. When I was a bachelor, I'd buy like 1-2 pairs sometimes a week.
Dang.
Of like nicer shoes too. They were like Ultra Boost and stuff. Yeah. But now it's like, something that I really like. So, when my birthday comes around or my wife wants to, treat me, she'll like surprise me or just say, hey, we're getting you some New Balances. Let's go. Like I found these ones. What ones do you like the most? Or you can just set the goal too. Like I did this a lot when I did door to door. Like if I, hit this goal this week, I'm going to, treat myself to this nice dinner. I'm going to buy these shoes or that sort of thing. And it kind of helps keep you motivated.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like set little milestones for yourself. And I talked about this last podcast about like goal setting. When you set those milestones, it's important to celebrate those accomplishments like when you reach them. Like if you do hit your goal for door-to-door sales, you need to celebrate that because otherwise like, oh, I hit my goal. That's cool.
Yeah.
Like, no, you gotta be like, hey, I hit my goal. Like I did what I said what I was gonna do, and now I'm gonna go treat myself a little bit.
Yeah.
It's important to do that. Like, I think some people neglect that about them, and it doesn't have to be anything like a nice dinner or shoes. Maybe go out for ice cream or like I don't know, go see a movie you've been wanting to. Like,
yeah.
I think it's important to celebrate that. So I appreciate you saying that.
A massage, that'd be nice.
Oh,
like,
dude.
That sounds really nice.
If anyone knows massages, like a massage person in Utah, hit us up. That'd be nice. But the last thing that I wanted to ask you is something that I think is different for everyone, but it's about like your values and principles.
Yeah.
And specifically, like what are some very important values and principles that you use to guide your own life and your own decisions? You don't mind talking about that for a little bit?
I would just say like I'm big on the golden rule. Like that's big for me. Like just treating others how you'd like to be treated. I'd imagine most people have heard that, but like,
really? What is that?
I definitely try to live by that because it sucks. Like getting blindsided or having someone say something that's kind of rude,
or destroy your rental property.
Yeah, exactly. That sort of thing. And even like, when I have my faults as well, like after that too, it's like, okay, I didn't, follow, I didn't do what I should have, but now like I have a chance to make it right, that sort of thing. So I'd say the golden rule is huge. I'd say integrity is something else that's super important. Like that's something I've liked at the last 2 companies I've been at, is we don't have contracts. So we're literally just trying to bring people solutions, help their business, add value with no contract. It's just, that's been so fulfilling for me because, like, when it comes to my integrity, I don't want to question my integrity when I'm trying to like sell someone something.
Right.
I don't want to, like, I mean, sometimes like I'd meet these really nice people when I was doing door to door, and it's like, yeah, there's this really nice elderly lady who's already behind on her payments, doesn't have, very many bugs, or she has a local pest guy that's like a third of the price.
Yeah.
Seems like they're doing all right. Like, probably don't need to like force that, and lock her into some contract
Right.
where she can't she can't make that payment,
Yeah.
And so I'd say integrity is something that's big. I'd like to turn this around a little bit and just get your perspective on this, because I've got a lot of respect for you. This is like we always joke around that you're like the kindest person on the team, which you definitely are.
I don't know about that.
I mean, it's hard to say because there are lots of super nice, just genuine people. But I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on this as well.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. And then you definitely touched on one that I try and live my life by, and that's the golden rule. Like, always treat people like. It's kind of funny. Like, I heard this guy in my church once. He's like, you need to treat people like your mom's watching you at all times. And so, like, as cheesy as that is, sometimes it's like, if my mom saw me acting in a certain way, like, would I be proud of myself? Like,
yeah.
And then, like, ultimately, it's going to reflect on you. But I would say that is a very important principle to me. Is like, people have a lot of crap going on too.
Yeah, you never know what's going on in someone's life.
What people's problems are.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's no need to make their lives harder by being a jerk or like something like that. Like, try and make someone smile. I think Burke Alder.
Yeah, awesome.
He's the man, but he lives his life by, like, he has a principle where he tries to make one person smile every day. Mm-hmm. And I think that's great. Like, you don't need to, like, obviously tell people lies like, oh, life's going to be so good if they're going through a really hard time, but just be there for them.
Yeah.
Be someone.
I mean, there's so many ways to make people smile,
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be service oriented. That's a great way to do it,
Yeah.
There's just so much you can do.
Bad joke.
Make a joke, serve them.
Yeah.
Just reach out. Like, that's something that's super important. Like, you never know what someone's going through, like you said.
Yeah.
And so just checking in on people is super important, and I'm sure everyone can be better at it. I know I certainly can.
And I think along that is, like, you have to be genuine when you're trying to take an interest in people and learn about them, because people can smell, like, when you're trying to be fake, right?
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, like, this guy is just being superficial. If you want to be nice to someone and, like, help them or listen to them, like, take an interest in them, ask them about their kids, ask them about their job or something like that, where you can learn about their interests. That's something my dad taught me, like, as I went into the sales career that I chose. He's like, the way that you're going to succeed is if you actually care about the people first and listen to them and then try and sell them something.
Yeah. Listening's huge.
It's like we're all on this earth to go through life or whatever, and make money, do business, but we're also people first.
100%.
And, like, that's something that, like, I try and take into my life and, like, understand where people are coming from. So, like, that's a principle for people, like, or working with people, that I try and live by. But I think another one is I touched on it in the last podcast. It's just, like, set goals for yourself and then be patient, like, to reach them. And if you need to adjust your goals, make them a little bit more achievable and manageable. But never have a time in your life when you don't have goals set. And that can be personal, professional, like in a relationship, you could have goals. But, like, you always have to be progressing. And I was actually talking to my friend Mitch Whiting, you might have known him. And he was telling me, like, because I was like, I suck at change. Like, I'm so bad at changing. He goes, what are you talking about? You change literally every single day. He's like, you change your clothes. Like, okay, yeah, that's a good example. He's like, you change the room that you're talking to people in all the time. Like, you drive, you go to work, you go home. Like, you're changing all the time. He goes, what you're talking about is progression. And sometimes people have a hard time with progression because it's like a hard choice.
Yeah.
And so that goes along with like goals is like, hey, you can change no matter what. You can take the easy road, quit your job, just play video games all day. And that's going to be a big change.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's not going to be fulfilling in life. So like, if you want to have a fulfilled life, set goals that kind of scare you a little bit and try and reach them. Like this podcast was something that I wanted to start and try to get better at for like, personally, I wanted to get better at like how I speak and how I talk to people. But then it's just like fun to learn like you about shoes and like where your experience with like real estate and stuff like that is. And yeah.
Well, we could be speaking at Accelerate someday, you know? This could be a live
happen,
panel,
man.
you know?
We're going to do it.
Hey, I'd love it.
No, I mean, those are like two just like quick ones. And I guess like the last one I would say is you've heard extreme ownership, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jocko Willink, I think he coined this term, but take ownership of anything. Like, it's all on you. And if you mess up, fess up to it, learn from it, and don't do it again. Or like, you know, if there's a problem in your relationship, like figure out what you could be doing to take ownership of it and work on it. And but like be patient too. So
yeah.
I don't know. Those are just like.
No, I love those. Yeah. No, 100%. That's great.
Just simple, but you know, try and just be a good person. I would say too.
Yeah. I mean, what's nice is like a lot of that. I think we're very aligned with that. It's like, yeah, this is the foundation, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's so much more that goes into it, you know. Like,
right.
You're making decisions each and every day that really impact who you are and you know, your relationships with others around you. And so it's all of that, and then it's individual decisions each day, like to back those up, you know.
Dude, that's like a perfect place to end it.
Perfect.
I don't have anything else to say on that. Like
let's get to work, you know. Let's go get some
How was it?
stuff
It was your
done.
first podcast.
Felt good, you know. It was a little intimidating. Might have to edit a little bit out here and there. I probably sounded like a robot.
I do all the time.
Hey, but I mean, it's all right. Wow. Like, you were just, when you sent me the outline, I was like, Brett has put a ton of effort into this. Like, he's the best. So that means a lot that you know, you put the time into that, and then B, that you know, we were able to kind of just make this happen. I know we've talked about it seriously. Like, I think since the day I started working here, because before, like, I noticed you were going to be on my team, so I looked at your LinkedIn, saw you had a podcast. I might have even like played one episode before, and I was like, got to get on the gas with my boy. But, so yeah, it was good.
We'll get you on again. And we'll do round 2. But seriously, thanks for coming on. And
hey, thanks for having me.
Everyone else, just keep getting after it.
Okay, let's get after it. If you think we should keep the name, please let us know. I mean, well, it's not my podcast. But
No,
if you think that Brett should keep the name, please reach out to him, shoot him a message. You know, he gets after it every day. So it's a great name, but you know, as this podcast continues to progress, you know, maybe something like the Pursuit also makes sense. So, you know, maybe Brett will throw out a poll on LinkedIn or something. We'll see. But keep that in mind, please. Please let him know your thoughts and like and subscribe.
And send Karsten all the links for like shoes and all that stuff that you can get some deals on. We need him to be tricked out of here.
Yeah, that'd be great. And insert ads now.
Okay. Thanks. That's perfect.